Welcome to the Power of I Am podcast. I am your host, Crystal Kelly. This is a show where great things are possible by great people. Join me as I discuss interesting topics with people from everywhere. We will focus on creating a life of victory by declaring with conviction the positive power of I am.
And we will be discussing the presence of a Black father in the home or in their child's lives. As you know, the Power of I Am focuses on speaking life and things into existence, telling each other's real life stories, where they come from, the trials and tribulations they've overcome, and where they are going. So with me today, I have with me Timothy Freylon. I have with me Shar Moore and Dushawn Jones. They are going to give a quick introduction, who they are, how old they are, how many children they have, and their ages. And we're going to dive into this conversation to just get their viewpoints on being a present Black father in today's time. So we're going to start with you, Tim. Give us a little background on who you are.
Thank you very much, Crystal. Timothy Freylon, age 35, born in Chicago, Illinois, raised in Hartford, Connecticut. I reside in New Britain, Connecticut right now. I have a 17-year-old young king, just turned 17 yesterday, so that's a big accomplishment of mine. And I just love doing community work and helping out where I can. I have a nonprofit called Community, so we do different things in the community. So I just pass all that on to my son and my family as well.
Awesome. And how about you, Shar?
Shar Moore, born and raised in Greenville, South Carolina. Currently residing in Charlotte, North Carolina. Been here a little over 10 years. 38 years old. I have my foster daughter, Shaddai. Had her since she was 10 days old. She's 4.5 now. Pretty much, I'm a lover of all art, hip-hop artist, business owner, and a widower. So pretty much just my daughter, she says I'm her hero. She's my hero as well. She's my one of the main reasons I keep fighting and keep moving every day.
Awesome. And last but not least, Dushawn.
Hi, my name is Dushawn Jones. I'm 40 years old. I have 4 boys. One years old, and 3 of them is 10 years old. The twins just turned 10 Wednesday the 29th. And I just enjoy being there with my kids, loving on my kids, teaching them, showing them who God is and living it, not just talking about it and living it. And I'm just proud to be just, a Black father and being active in my children's lives.
Awesome. Now, before, we began this podcast, I was having a conversation with Shar offline, and I learned something awesome and amazing. So I do believe that nothing happens by coincidence. And as I was explaining offline, I just released my first book entitled I Am Purposely Made. And this is an activity book just to help people define their strong character traits and how they can use their talents and personality to impact others or to serve others. The book is entitled I Am Purposely Made because I live and believe strongly in affirmation and speaking life over yourself in those 2 words, putting those 2 words and declaring whatever it is powerful. Like I am purposely made, saved my life, because there were years I walked on this earth believing that I had no purpose and I did not know what that was. And one day I discovered that affirmation of, God doesn't make mistakes and he does not have to do anything he doesn't want to. So the fact that he created me and he chooses every day to wake me up in the morning, I have to know that that has purpose in itself. So that affirmation, I am purposely made, means a lot to me, which bred or birthed this podcast, The Power of I Am. So when I said that, Shar, would you like to show everyone what you shared with me and why it's there?
Oh yeah, I got I am tattooed on my arm. I was fortunate enough to run into a real queen, my late wife, Shawn Haskins Moore, who already knew herself and knew her capabilities, knew who she was, knew her worth. I didn't, but she seen it within me. So pretty much just being around her and watching how she moved and how she operated, it began to rub off on me. She was always with affirmations. She was big on affirmations. You know, she would get up in the morning and start playing affirmations on YouTube, or, you know, she would listen to, you know, things when she would lay down in the bed. And, you know, I would talk to her about it, and, you know, we would conversate about it. And again, just like you were saying, just knowing your purpose. And a lot of times we think we are weaker than what we really are. We don't really understand our power. We don't know the power that we have as individuals, as kings and queens, as Black people, as men, as women. So I began to start listening to the affirmations and then saying them to myself. And then I realized how much power the words I am do hold. And being a Black man, a lot of times we get a hold of the I am not.
That's
you know
right.
what I'm saying? You know, and we focus on that a lot of times, and rather than, you know, who we really are, because of the illusion that society tries to portray.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, those two words are very powerful, and I think it's very important to, you know, speak those affirmations out loud. Whatever that it is that you want, whatever that it is that you want to accomplish, we're capable of doing anything. We just have to decide to do it and know it can be done, and then do our due diligence to make it happen, because we all are creators on this earth as well, just like
That's right.
So we have to exercise our abilities and our powers as well.
That's right. And one of the things, and I noticed, Timothy, you stated this earlier when you introduced your son. One of the things I noticed as of late, maybe in the last few years or not, there has been a lot of speaking upward amongst Black males, especially as addressing them as kings. Young kings or king. I've noticed that was not always the trend, because I, even growing up in Connecticut and being around, you know, I grew up in on Albany Avenue, on Edgeworth Street. So, you know, a lot of our terms to each other as people, as Black people, but especially male to male, has been more so like bro, or my nigga, or, you know, it's just, but now it's like, what's up, king? And this my young king. So that's speaking upward and building a young Black male, where society, as Shar, you were saying, society builds a world around them where they're less than. Even by addressing them as king, you're letting them know they're more than. So Timothy, how important is it for you to send that message or spread that message to your son? Because I noticed that you said my young king is. Can you expound on that a little bit?
So it's very, very important to me to let him know that he's a king, you know, in his own right, and royalty. I started doing that probably when he was around, I say, 8, 9 years old. And I did that because I noticed that when I would bring them out to like the basketball court or out to the playground and things like that, the park, when I would bring him there, I would notice that a lot of the kids would call each other my nigga and things like that. And I didn't so much like that, neither did he. So what I started doing was, whether they knew me or not, I would tell them that to address each other as, king and queen instead, because of the ugly history behind that word. So I always put that into him, and he never liked being called that either, whether it was from a friend or not. And he would, first he would address the kid and tell him, don't call me that, and things like that. So, and I always taught him the mentality of being royalty is key. And sometimes, when you get into these battles with people, whether it be verbal or physical, you have to remember that sometimes we lose our thoughts as royalty, and we have a peasant thoughts at that moment. And I tell them, you cannot be valuable having peasant thoughts or respond to those that have peasant thoughts. You have to remind them they are royalty and you are royalty, and that's how we have to act. And then when we get caught in those moments where we act like a peasant, we have to remind ourselves that we are always kings and queens.
That's awesome. And Deshaun, you say that you had 4 boys. So this is, even more prevalent, to you, because not only are you, given the message, just to build upward, as you stated earlier, you and your wife, and I'm sure your children were involved. You went out and fed the homeless and gave them masks. And so you're showing them, not only just telling them like what a true king looks like, acts like, and it's supposed to be, but you're a living example, because like you say, it's you're in the household, you have your wife, you have 4 boys. How do you build your sons up in this society? And how do you impress upon them how important it is to be a positive young Black male?
Well, yeah, I was just surprised to hear the brother say that, he calls his kid, young king, because that's what I call my kids. I call them king kids. And they be so like proud of, they like to hear me say that to them.
We got her from the hospital, me and my wife. That was in November of 2015. September of 2017, my wife passed. And then April of 2018 is when the judge ordered the joint custody of the bio parents. And during that time they had the joint custody. I was still fortunate enough to see my baby, because the bio dad had criminal and drug abuse issues, and the bio mom had no support. So I ended up still, keeping my baby a lot. March of 2019, the bio mom moved to Wisconsin and left my baby with the bio dad, who we already knew had the issues. And to make a long story short, going through court the whole time, and was able to prove some facts and stuff. And in October of last year, I got emergency custody of her.
Awesome.
In February of this year, that turned into temporary custody. So now we're waiting on the main custody trial to start, which has kind of been delayed, of course, due to the COVID-19 situation.
That's an awesome story. And just for the audience's sake, I personally knew your late wife, Sean. She started out as my hairdresser and my stylist. And I have to just say, again, I don't believe in coincidences, because I had just moved to Charlotte and very picky about, who does my hair and where I'm going to get my hair done. And I had a disagreement, an argument, a falling out, whatever you want to call it, with my son's father. And I just went on a drive. And lo and behold, down the street from my house was a salon in a shopping center. And I parked and I was just like, let me see if this is open. And really, she was closing for the day, but the door wasn't locked yet. And I happened to go in, and, we started talking, and, she told me, she was kind of done for the day, but, I was just asking her information, and we started talking. We just started vibing for a while, and she ended up doing my hair that day. But she was just a beautiful person inside and out. Really, really impactful individual. Just goal-oriented business owner. She taught me a lot in a short period of time, and she would be happy to know that I am still natural because of her to this day, even though I told her I would not be able to do it. So 11 years strong, Sean. So going back to, Timothy and Shar, unfortunately, Deshaun must have had phone issues. So he's not on the line anymore. But the purpose of this episode is just to showcase present Black fathers, because unfortunately, the reality of it is we have more non-present Black fathers than we have present Black fathers. I did a statistic run just for the year of 2019. Out of single parent, there are 15,000. There's a little over 15,000 single parent homes, which is baffling to me because, and this is just for the United States, so 15,000 single parent homes in the year of 2019. Out of those 15,000, there are only 3,000 of them are single Black family, Black males, fathers. That means that 12,000 women in the United States in 1 year are raising their kids alone. And which is mind-boggling to me and mind-blowing to me, because it takes two. It takes two. So for those 15,000 households, that's, even if they just had one child, that is 15,000 children that are missing out on the experience of having a Black father or just a father in the household. Let me go back and correct that, because the statistic was not for Black fathers. The statistic was for single parents. I do not know what the statistic is for Black families alone, but just to look at that, there's 15,000 children at a minimum that are missing out on a dual family, mother and father household. There are 3,000 of those households that just have their father present. There are 12,000 households that have no father presence in their household. And that's just for 1 year. That's a lot. And I grew up not having a father in the household. I grew up and, I did not know what a mother and father household looked like. Although I was taught from a young age how, when you get married, this is how you should treat your husband and your kids. This is, the dad. And I'm like, how do I grow into an image that I've never even seen in my household or in my immediate family? So I applaud you, all three of you, and welcome back, Deshaun. So he's back. But I applaud each of you for not only being present, but consciously and purposely making the decision to be present, whether it's of your own child or someone else's. So I'm going to talk to you, Deshaun, because you got cut off a little bit. But tell us a little bit about your family background with your kids. And you said you had twins. You have 4 boys all together. Are they all, from your same wife, or do you, have several or 2 different mothers? Just tell me a little bit more about your kids' background, your background, and then your choice and how important that was for you to be a present father. Tell me a little bit about the choice and how important that was for you to be a present father in a time where there is 15,000 single parent homes in 1 year.
Okay. Definitely. So I'll give you a little bit of background about myself when it comes to that. I personally haven't seen my father since I was 11 years old. I've talked to him on the phone from time to time, but I haven't seen him physically face-to-face since 11. Prior to that, him and my mother had a very toxic marriage, and where she would take physical and verbal abuse, and myself as well. So that's what I learned from baby to 11. And then from 11, this is the pivotal years of being a preteen to an adulthood, I had no father figure in the home. So and I want to point out too that this is the magical year, my son being 17, because this is the year when I was 17 that I found out that his mom was pregnant with him.
Wow.
At 17. So to go, 6 years from 11 to 17, now you're about to be a father yourself. I just knew that I didn't want to be like him. And I knew that I give thanks that he showed me what not to do. So no, I didn't know how to be a father. I knew that I was going to try my damnedest and hardest to do that as well. So it was very important for me to be present from the beginning. So finding out at 17 is just like, I was 17, she was 16. I'll never forget finding out in the Hartford Civic Center that, but it's just like to know that at 17, like I have my whole life in front of me. And now I have to make these decisions really quick on what I do next. I had scholarships for football and everything that I had to put online because I knew that being present was more important than any scholarship or playing football on Saturdays and things like that, collegiate or not. So that, to me, was the most important part. And to all fathers, it's so important that we are present in our kids' lives, because that, it manipulates and it can change the trajectory of what they do in life, from kids to adults.
And I like the fact that you said, I had to make decisions quickly, and I knew that I had to put these things on hold for a moment. And unfortunately, the reality is you don't have to. You have a choice as a male to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take this scholarship. I'm going to play football. I'm going to go live my life. I'll be there. I'll send you a check, or let me know how that turns out. Unfortunately, that in a lot of cases, that's the reality, because men now, I think has traditionally been given the choice to be a parent, whether, as opposed to the mother. She doesn't really have a choice, pro-life. But once you give birth, you are a mom. You those 9 months is once you make the choice that, hey, I'm going to carry this child, I'm going to have this child. You don't have a choice to say, I'm going to stop in the middle. 7 months. Oh, I changed my mind. I'm just going to walk away. I'm going to keep. We don't have that same reality. So I applaud you, because you said, I had to make decisions quickly. And that's what I want to point out in this conversation, how powerful and positive that is that you chose to be a father. You chose to be a present father, and you chose to turn his life into something better than your own experience. You said, I knew I did not want to be like what I saw growing up, or what I didn't see growing up. So speaking of choices, Shar, you not only, lost your wife, and I'm sure that was a decision you guys came up with together to choose to foster a child or to adopt a child. Not only did you make that choice, but once you lost your wife, you continued to choose and you declared it so much, like, I am her father, I am her dad. So you're continuously making that choice to be present. Tell me about that. Tell me why is that important? Why is that your choice?
Yeah, that's that's real. Never knew that I would be here, bringing home that 10-day-old baby and looking at how helpless the baby was, and sitting and thinking about the fact that out of everybody that knew the parents, 2 strangers had to be called, because this baby had nobody. And then once holding that baby and nurturing that baby, that's when the I am starts kicking in. As far as like who I am to her, who I am to the community, who I am to the world. And I knew how important it was for her to have somebody to give her a fair chance. And of course, as the bond grew closer and as she began to grow and she identified me as daddy, she identified my wife as mommy, and about 6 to 7 months later, the bio parents came back, was wanting to see her. And they were getting visits, but even though she knew and still knows who they are, she still identifies, me and my wife as the parents, not just because of the time, but it's been because of what she felt, what she was shown, and what she was given.
Right.
Which is part of the reason I'm in this battle, now, because the bio dad, she calls him daddy as well, it's hard for him to accept the relationship she has with me. Granted, he had a whole 1.5 years with custody, but didn't choose to be a father. He chose to put her off in different places and still not be present. So I guess what made me do it, for one, is the main thing is the love, because she does feel like my own flesh and bone. And I know that she needs me. And the love that my wife had for her. And I did have the choice. Even after my wife passed, I could have just let it all go. People told me to let it go because this has been a hard battle for me, like on so many levels. It's like a dirty, nasty, it's like a nasty custody case. And I've faced a lot. Right now I'm facing a lot because, my mom is with me right now during this whole COVID-19. So I haven't been letting her go on visits because she has to go visit each parent. Each parent is in a different city and state with different people. And my mom's here with me. She has asthma. It's like it's not safe. So when all this is said and done, I can go to court and be in contempt and go to jail. But I had to weigh the options on what's safe for her, and trying to let them know, like, hey, you can make all your visits and stuff up. It's not really working. But everything I'm doing is for the best interest for her. I made the choice because, again, it's not about me. It's not about what makes me feel happy and satisfied, but it's about her, knowing the situation that she would be put in and wanting her to have a better chance. Because if she has a better chance, if you can change one person's life, that can possibly change a whole generation.
That's right.
It may not change the world, but it could change the whole generation that comes under her family, because somebody cared enough to give her a chance. I had a good friend tell me that it would be good for her to know that somebody's really, really fighting for her.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So with that, that's what I weighed. I weighed the options. When my wife passed, is like, I'd rather fight for her to make sure she has a better life, versus, give it all up. I could right now, I could be, it's been a few years now. I can be single and just doing whatever I want when I want to, but I choose not to. I choose to build her and mold her into something, because I know my time, I don't know how much time I got here, but she's just getting started. And I know I can't save the world, but if I can just save her, that can save a lot.
And that's what's up. And I applaud that. That's awesome. And it's needed in both males and females, but being a woman that grew up without a positive male role model in my life, and being, young without a father figure, I have to say is so impactful, especially to a young girl, to have that in her life. So I applaud that to you, because you're right. Regardless of how it turns out, just knowing that you are loved so much that someone is willing to fight for you, not fight you or against you, fight for you. That is a seed that will always be with her, and that will grow into just more positive self-esteem and development in the way that she views herself, even when she gets to an age where she's dealing with other men, just, letting her self-worth be at a level that doesn't need to be built up because it was built up from 10 days old,
Right.
So that's beautiful and that's awesome. So as we, get ready to close this conversation, which I am just, in awe. There's so much that I can continue to say and do, but I applaud each of you just for making the choice to change the visual, making the choice to change the narrative. All Black men aren't, thugs and street thugs and criminals, and they're not all deadbeats. They're entrepreneurs, like you said. They're a lover of the arts. They're men that build other men up by identifying them as the kings that they were born to be, and not the slave mentality or the peasant mentality that we were instilled to believe. So I encourage you guys to continue to spread that message, continue to not only be a present in your own child's life, but if you see there's a gap or there's a need in another young person's life, be that gap, be that example, and be that seed to help plant more seeds of positive growth, so that we can help change not only a generation, but the world. Because I do believe in that, and I do believe that it's possible. So as we close up, I like to leave with a positive affirmation thought, or, something that's important to you, kind of your last few words. Timothy, you got something for me?
Last few words is, present over present, presence over present, basically. Make sure you're present in your kids' lives as a king, and make sure that you instill life into them. So breathe life into them, because it is easier to build up a child than to fix a broken adult.
Awesome. And where can they find you on social media?
Social media, on Facebook, Timothy Hirsch Freylon. On Instagram, IG, the number 4, Unity Core, CORP.
Awesome. And what about you, Shar?
I would say I really like the phrase or whatever, that you have to be the change you want to see. Whatever we dealt with in the past, or whatever we want to see in the future, we have to start with ourselves on making that change. And then I think that leads to things around us and results changing. First, you got to start with yourself if you want things around you to change. I can be found Facebook. My personal page is Sharward Moore. That's SHARWARD, as in David, last name Moore. If you're into hip hop, you can find a lot of getgutta.com. That's GETGUTTA.com. Facebook under the official Get Gutta. IG, the same thing. If you into that. But yeah, pretty much if you get on my personal Facebook, you can find out about everything I'm into and what I got going on.
Awesome. So I leave with everybody: speak it, believe it, receive it. Know that you are capable and you are purposely made. Make each day count. And I thank you guys for joining the Power of I Am. You know where to find me. I am Crystal Kelly across all media lines and online on my site, www.iamcrystalkelly.com. Tune in, stay tuned in, and we'll speak to you later.